What is up, JT Squad out there? Thank you for watching this video. We're going to go over my first 90 days living in Las Vegas. What's my assessment? What do I think about it? Do I suggest you guys move here? Before we get into this video, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Have that little bell ring for notifications. We're going to do a lot of vlogs on this channel. We're going to do Vegas news. We're also going to chronicle my journey living in Las Vegas. So if this is something you're into, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Don't forget, LifeCrusherApparel.com just launched. I'm working on some new designs. Use code LCAFREE for absolutely free shipping till after Christmas time. But let's jump into this video. I put a question out there on one of the Facebook groups, Solo Las Vegas, I do believe. I asked anybody if they planned on moving to Las Vegas. A lot of people said yes. There was a lot of positivity. There was a lot of negativity. There were some people making fun of me that I was going to make a video because I talked about making video because everybody's been asking me to make a video. But let's get into some of the people concerns on the Facebook group. I know the number one thing was crime. So my assessment of the crime living here for 90 days, it does have a higher crime rate than most cities. Depending on the area you live, I live in Summerlin myself. There's very little crime in Summerlin, but it happens everywhere. Just the other day in Henderson, there was a shooting at the 7-Eleven. So it happens everywhere. When you live in a big city, crime is expected. I know there was a lot of crime on the Strip, a lot of shootings on the Strip, and that has decreased a lot. I think there's still a random one here and there, but for the most part the crime's decently high, but it kind of depends on the area. It doesn't really scare me from living here that much because I knew what I was getting into moving to Las Vegas. It's a big city, you know, a lot of crazy things happen here. There is some gangs here and stuff like that. The next one was the cost of living in Las Vegas. I did make a video. Make sure you do check out that video, cost of living in Las Vegas. For the most part, living in Las Vegas, you would automatically think it's going to be super expensive. Now, I do go over in my video the cost of living. The cost of living isn't as bad as I thought. I pay $1,100 for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment in Summerlin. The cost of food, if you go to Winco, is very affordable. The gas price is the lowest I've seen was $2.25 a gallon. That's a little bit higher than most places. But for the most part, the cost of living isn't that bad living in Las Vegas. Next question I get a lot, is it hard to get a job in Las Vegas? Well, that kind of depends on the industry that you're familiar of working in. For example, my mom's worked in food service a lot of years, and she was a manager at a food restaurant in Wyoming where we moved from, and she is having the hardest time getting full-time employment. She got 2 jobs, but both of them are only offering part-time, 20 hours a week. And they're paying very low here. The jobs in Las Vegas pay very low, depending on where you work. You know, like she was making like $14 an hour at a food service job she was working before. Now she's making $9 an hour at almost the equivalent food service job with only 20-25 hours a week. So my assessment of living in Las Vegas for jobs, I suggest if you can do it, work in a warehouse. I work in a warehouse right now. I think I make like $16, $17 an hour, somewhere around there exactly. It wasn't that hard to get the job. There's a lot of warehouse jobs there in North Las Vegas. It's kind of quite a drive if you live in like Summerlin or Henderson, where I live in Summerlin. It's like a 20-mile drive to the job, but most of those jobs are pretty easy to get. You're guaranteed to get it. But I do suggest if you move to Las Vegas or planning on moving to Las Vegas, have a job lined up before you get here. A lot of apartment complexes do require 2.5 times the rent. So have that lined up before you plan on moving. I had a job lined up before I moved here, so that kind of helped me get the apartment that I'm living in right now. But the jobs kind of depends on the industry. You're going to have to do a little research before you plan on moving here. Next up, the people of Las Vegas. What kind of people live in Las Vegas? What's my assessment of my 90 days living in Las Vegas overall? And I'm not going to generalize everybody in Las Vegas, so if you're watching this video, don't be offended. I'm probably not talking about you, but overall, I've met a lot of amazing people. I've met some really super rude people. For example, I went to the grocery store. This lady helped me with the self-checkout. I said, "Thank you, ma'am." She didn't say nothing. She just walked away. So I've noticed that the manners in Las Vegas are far in between. Not how I was raised in Wyoming. We have manners. We say thank you. We open the doors for people. It's not that like that in Las Vegas. The drivers are super rude here. You try to get on the highway, most of the time they'll move over for you. No, they ain't gonna move over for you. So it's something you just kind of got to get used to. But you are going to meet some great people. I've met some amazing people at my job, and that's kind of my assessment so far. I've only lived here 90 days, living in Las Vegas. Hopefully it turns around. Maybe it's because COVID's going on and everything around the world. Everybody's kind of depressed and down and everything like that. But for the most part, I've met a lot of rude people in Las Vegas. This next topic is one of the main reasons why I moved to Las Vegas, the weather. I absolutely love the weather here. That was some of the big reason why I moved from Wyoming. It snowed like 9 months out of the year. It was cold 9-10 months out of the year. Las Vegas has a very mild winter. It's December 1st. I think it's like 61 degrees out today. So I love the weather here. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's way too hot for me, but they don't realize if you've ever lived anywhere that it's hot, your body adapts to heat. So it might feel hot, but then your blood thins out and stuff like that, and then you get used to the heat. I lived in Florida for almost 5 years, and at first when I moved there from Wyoming and stuff like that, I was like, holy cow, it's hot as hell here. But the humidity is different there too. It's a lot of wet humidity, so you take a shower and you come out and you're still dripping in sweat. Vegas is very dry heat, so it's kind of get used to the hot weather. And also there's AC everywhere. Like I have AC in my apartment. All the casinos have AC. Most of the stores have AC. Everything has AC here. So if you're too hot outside, get out of the outside and get inside and up the AC. But I absolutely love the weather here. If you are used to living in a little small town where there's not a lot of food options, well, welcome to Las Vegas. There's food everywhere. There's Mexican, there's Italian, there's hibachi grills, there's fast food galore here. So that was one of the main reasons too I wanted to move to Las Vegas, the options of places to eat. Now with COVID going on, everything's kind of declining a little where you can eat inside, where you can. Sometimes it's only takeout. But if you plan on moving to Las Vegas and you're a foodie like your boy JT, I do definitely suggest you move to Las Vegas, the capital of the food world. Sin City. I love the food in Las Vegas. The next thing that I learned, and I already went over this a little bit, what is the best place to live in Las Vegas as far as the locations? I suggest either Summerlin, where I live, or right on the edge on the west side of Summerlin, or Henderson. Those are the two main spots where you're going to feel the safest and there's the least amount of crime. But like I said, there's crime everywhere in Las Vegas. It happens to anybody, anywhere. It doesn't matter what part of Las Vegas you live. But I feel the safest in Summerlin myself. I do suggest looking at some places in Summerlin. So you can leave a comment down below if you're interested in where to live or some of the places. I by no means know everything about Las Vegas, but living here 3.5, almost 4 months now, I've kind of learned the locations. We've done a lot of driving around. We know what's good, what's bad. And it's kind of weird here because there'll be one street, half the street will be fabulous $1 million homes, and the other half will be all ran down and a crappy neighborhood. So you got to do your due diligence when it comes to living in Las Vegas, but I do suggest those two areas, Summerlin and Henderson, if you do plan on moving here. Now let's get into gambling in Las Vegas. My assessment, I had some funny comments on the Facebook group. They were talking about if I moved to Las Vegas, I'd be broke in 6 weeks and I'd go bankrupt and blah, 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 blah. That could be true if you have a bad gambling addiction. I personally play slots with my mom, but I always have a budget. Sometimes I win, sometimes I lose. That's one thing about gambling. It's always up and down. And the best suggestion I suggest for what I personally do is I take like $50 a week out of my check and I put it aside in an envelope and I put gambling fun or something like that on there. And then I take that money, I'll collect it for 3-4 weeks, and then I'll go to the casino. If I lose the $200 that I saved or $150 and I saved, it's no big deal, because every time you go in a casino, you should expect to lose whatever money you brought to gamble, because Gambling is so volatile, up and down. I actually have better luck in like Summerlin area rather than on the Strip. I used to always win at Treasure Island on the Strip, and it just hasn't been like that. And you got to think too, COVID, everything, they need to recoup their losses and stuff. So some people are saying that they are tightening up the slot machines. I don't know if that's true or not. That might be a myth or whatever. But I do suggest, if you do like to gamble, to live in Las Vegas a long time, make sure you are doing it at a minimum. You know, you take a little money, you put it aside, you gamble. If you lose, oh well, do it the next month or whatever. And if you win, then you have a little bit bigger of a bankroll the next time you want to go gamble. But also, don't be afraid to break even. I know I was talking about this on someone else's YouTube channel. You know, when you live here, you can go to the Strip, you can go to casinos every single day. So don't be afraid just to break even and get out of there, and or make $20 or make $4. I one time went to the casino and I won 20 bucks. I just walked out of there. I took my $20, said, all right, thank you, I'll come back another time. And that's the one thing about living in Las Vegas. You got to learn to gamble at a minimum, and when you're up, leave. When you break even, leave. But that's my assessment of gambling in Las Vegas as a local. My overall assessment, would I recommend moving to Las Vegas? I would definitely recommend it. But like I said, try to have a job lined up. Make sure you minimize your gambling when you live here. Make sure you have an apartment lined up. Make sure you do your due diligence and your research before you just dive right in and just move to Las Vegas. Because I was staying in a hotel a few weeks. I was going to buy a house, that fell through. Now I'm renting an apartment. But I had a rocky road when I first moved here. Went through a lot of money on hotels, eating out all the time because I couldn't have a fridge or a microwave in my hotel room. So like I said, I would suggest moving to Las Vegas. I absolutely love it here. I think I made a great decision. I have a good warehouse job. I live in a good area of Las Vegas. I have a lot of fun. I'm able to go to the Strip whenever I want. And also, I know a lot of people are saying, well, if I moved to Las Vegas, it would take out the fun of living in Las Vegas. For me personally, it has not. I still get excited every day that I live in Las Vegas, knowing that I can drive to the Strip, or I can go to downtown Fremont Street, or anywhere I want, anytime I want. If I have a day off, I got a little extra cash on me or whatnot. I used to have to save for months and months and months when I lived in Wyoming to take a vacation. I had to fly over there and everything like that. So it doesn't take out the fun ability of living in Las Vegas. But thank you guys for watching. Make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you check out Life Crusher Apparel. Also leave a comment down below if there's something I missed on an assessment of living in Las Vegas 90 days. And I will see you for the next one.